All right, so in the last video, you saw that we are having issues trying to get access to this THIS keyword. Whenever we click the button, the value of this is coming out to be undefined. If I click on it, you can see it's coming out to be undefined. And the reason is that we are using this inside a class, and inside a class, this, if you use it inside a function, it's actually undefined. But constructor, inside the constructor, this is not undefined. So if I go ahead and run the application again, maybe like refresh it, we can see that the value of this is coming out to be correct. So what can we do? How can we access this? And the reason we want to access this is that then we can access or increment the counter. So inside your constructor, what you can do, where you have the value of this, which is not undefined, which is a true value, you can say this dot handle increment equals to this dot handle increment click dot bind. There is a JavaScript function called bind with the value of this. Okay, so what exactly does bind do and what it actually means? The bind function is going to bind the value of this so that when we are inside the handle increment click and we use this, it is going to use the value that actually existed, which was inside the constructor. In other words, we know that the value of this inside the constructor is available. It is not undefined. And by binding it to the handle increment click function, we are making this value right here available inside the handle increment click. Now if we go ahead and click on handle increment or increment button, you can see that it's no longer undefined. We actually get the value, which means that we can also access this dot counter, which should print out 0 because the counter value is right now 0. So if I go ahead and click it, you can see it's 0. Let me go ahead and remove these consoles so we don't console the log every single time. So this is one way to avoid the undefined error that we were getting in our component by providing or by using the bind function, which is the JavaScript function, and by providing the value when it actually existed. So that next time we use the value or we refer to this, we are using the value when it actually existed, which was inside the constructor. This is great, but there is one other way you can use this without even getting into the all bind stuff. So let me go ahead and comment out the bind stuff. Now if I try to increment, I get the error, the same error, which is saying that this is undefined. In order to fix this error without using the bind function or without using this approach that we discussed earlier, I can actually go ahead and make this into an arrow function. And just by making this into an arrow function, I can resolve this issue. How? Well, the arrow function knows about the context where it is. So it will always give you the correct this value. So right now, this refers to the app class because that's kind of like the container. So you can either use the bind function or binding capabilities, or you can simply create your actual function as an arrow function, and that will resolve your issues. So now you can see that we have resolved this issue. Let's go ahead and see that if we can actually increment the counter. So let's go ahead and increment the counter, and let's go ahead and print out this dot counter. So increment, you can see that the value of the counter is actually incrementing whenever we click on the value. This is great, but this part still says 0. Well, this part says 0 because we never actually injected the value over here. So let's go ahead and inject that value. So maybe we can say this dot counter. All right. And just to see that the value of this is injected over here, I'm going to start the counter from 99. So we are 100% sure that this dot counter is actually correct. Okay, so let's go ahead and increment the counter. Okay, the counter is incrementing. You can see on the console right here, the value of the counter is definitely incrementing. It's 102 now, 103, 104, but the value that is over here is actually not incrementing at all. In other words, our user interface is out of sync with the data that it is supposed to display. And we really cannot solve this problem by doing anything in our code right now. In order to solve this problem, we have to look at a feature of React which is called state. So let's go to the next video and learn about how we can use the feature state to resolve this issue.